just drawing some accessories for this character. So I'm going to draw some arms, and I already have a folder of arms already set up. So here's a folder, open and close it. There's arms, got some wings. I'm putting wings in the arms category. So the category should really be appendages, things that extend from the body. But I want to draw a new one. Actually, I'm going to change the background too, make it easier for me to see. And then this new one, I want to draw some crab claws off of this pizza slice creature. What I'll do is I'll create a new layer. I'm going to get rid of this layer. So I have some blobby stuff there. So I'm going to drag it to the trash. And I'm going to draw a crab claw. And let's see, got my brush. So sometimes I just start off in a layer, I create a new layer, and I just kind of go really sketchy because I don't even know what the form is. So I'm just like sketching it. So I want it to be up there. And do I have enough room for everything? And then, maybe something like that. There's that one there. Sometimes I like to just vary the positioning of things. There's one here. This is my sketchy crab claw. Actually, maybe this one goes out a little bit more now that I think about it. I'm just making intuitive decisions of where I put my brush strokes. So yeah, that's cool for a sketch. And then what I do is I use that sketch as like a guide, a template. So I go into opacity, and I'll do this again and again until I feel like, oh, I like what I got. So lowering the opacity of the sketch and then creating a new layer. And then this layer becomes the actual drawing because I can refine it and then I'll get rid of the sketch. But the sketch kind of served as that initial inspiration for what I was doing. So I'm using my initial drawing here and just tracing over what I already did. So that's kind of the nice thing about Photoshop. You get unlimited layers, or really any painting and drawing program like Procreate or Clip Studio or like Lightning Paint. Your initial drawings may not be the ones that you use, and then you can go back and start to refine things. And that's generally what I do. I see things that I like, and the reason I like them is because they just feel balanced in a way. And they also have a weird kind of novel appeal to them. Novel appeal. And yeah, so kind of just going here and refining my initial claw. And then I can get rid of that one layer that served as the template, the initial sketch. Now, throughout this process now, I am zooming in. The file size for this file is pretty big. It's 75 inches by 75 inches, 5,400 pixels by 5,400 pixels. I'm at 72 dpi, but the image is huge. And I like to have a huge image because I get really caught up on detail. Like if the brush stroke is not 100% like I want it, or I like to have tapered brush strokes, and it's hard to do that sometimes when you are not zoomed in at the full dimensions that you initially set up. And then the other part of it too is just digging into this drawing by, by zooming in so I can make sure I don't have any gaps, because I don't want gaps in the shapes that I'm drawing. I want to make sure the lines come out. Here at this elbow, there's a gap. Zooming in lets me identify gaps a whole lot easier. So there's a lot of little gaps on this guy, this claw, the claw that's on the left-hand side. And there's probably some huge gaps behind the pizza slice face. So if I hit Option and click on that visibility eyeball in the layers panel, that can toggle between the layers that are currently visible and the layer that I'm working on. So I can only see that layer without the other layers interfering. So it's a visibility toggle by hitting Option or Alt on a PC, clicking on the eyeball, toggling between currently visible layers and only the layer that you want to be working on. So here I can go and fix this part of this crab claw because it goes behind the body, but I couldn't see it before, but now I can. And so I can close that up, and then I can toggle back and I'm back to visibility that I currently have. So I got some crab claws now, which I like. And the next part is maybe just adding more detail. Sometimes if I want to add detail, I might create another layer because I'm still experimenting. Like this crab claw maybe have like little hairs kind of coming up. might have other details like just additional lines, adding some sort of visual interest, you know, for hairs, add these little dots or little pimply dots to the claw. So anything that kind of just adds a little bit of visual interest, a little texture to it. It's still cartoony. This is like a cartoony, more cartoony style, more illustrative style, not really going for like realistic shading, but just doing something that's more graphic. And like, oh, maybe that's enough little accented detail. So that's on one layer. So I can turn it off. And do I like it? Do I not like it? Oh, I think it's fine. I think it's good. And then down below, I will create another layer. So I will do a Command J to duplicate the current layer, or Control J at PC, go to the layer down below, and then fill in these claws with color. So I will use my paint bucket, which is G. If you don't see the icon here, the toolbar, you can hit Shift G a couple times. I will pick a new color. So I'll make these pinkish claws and fill in these areas. You should watch out for it. If you zoom in, sometimes you see this little line here. That's the aliasing of my initial brush stroke for the clap claw layer on top. So what happens is the paint bucket tool is referencing the pixel that you click on. If it's white, it's painting all white pixels. There's a tolerance setting. So if you raise that up, it will tolerate more pixels. If you raise it up to 256, it fills in everything. So it tolerates all pixels. What the tolerance is looking for is a range of pixel colors close to the initial pixel you clicked on. So I usually set it at a relatively high level, but the other thing you can do too, if you have this little gap and you don't like it, see I have a little white gap, I just click on that area multiple times with the paint bucket tool. And every time you click, it fills in a little bit more because you click on the color you just added. Like I'm clicking on this pink color and it's expanding because it is referencing more blended pink anti-alias pixels with the color that was next to it. So just a couple double clicks and you can be assured that you don't get like any strange white outlines. So I got some color in there. So I have color in my crab claws. And then I just want to maybe add some color detail. Maybe the tips are a little bit different. I'll pick a color. Maybe it's a tint of that initial color that I had. If I'm picking like reddish color, I'll pick a tint of that, which would be like a pink. And then with my brush tool, what I can do is I can make that brush big. So I'm hitting the right bracket key. I'm making a big brush and then use a softer brush because I can just click once, do like a quick blend. So I'm shift and clicking with the left bracket key. Then I can go into the tips of the crab claw here. Now, I don't want to paint outside of the crab claw. What I can do is command click on the crab claw. If you're on a PC, you can control click and command click on the crab claw layer like I did to create a selection around it. So now when I paint, I'm painting only inside. So I'm painting like tips like that. So I got those nice crab claw tips in there. So adds a little bit of color variation, which is nice. It just adds that little extra detail. The last thing you might want to do is add like a little white highlight. So that's always fun to add. So I'll create a new layer and I'll use white as my foreground color. So I hit X, I had white as the background color. X switched it really quickly. I will use a smaller brush. Now for this, I sometimes go into brush settings. So you go into brush settings and I turn off transfer, and keeping the shape dynamic is fine, but turning off transfer completely, basically what that does is it just gets rid of the ability for me to use pen pressure to create the opacity change. If I go into transfer, pen pressure set, so just clicking it off turns off transfer completely. Because with a highlight, it's usually a very kind of hard edge line. It can be a little soft sometimes, but to quickly do nice highlights, you can just use white with a hard edge brush. So I also make sure I shift and click the white bracket so you can see how that brush the visualization of the brush in the brush settings panel changes. So it goes from a blurred brush. Now it has this hard edge. And now I go into my drawing and I just add some little white lines to indicate highlights on this guy. Just like a little added detail. This is what you would call specularity. You see these little types of features like this on eyeballs all the time. It's basically the light reflecting off of something. So it's a light source hitting this and it's reflecting off and it creates these little specular areas, but it adds some visual interest. And you just want to add, you don't want to go crazy with this. You just add some minor details like this. Sometimes I'll do a more detailed reflection where you have a lot more specular highlights, really paint it in. But for this, just some minor details is fine. So there you go. Now I got crab claws. Now the last step is to basically grab all the layers that you worked on for this. So I had 4 layers. I had a background color layer. I had the actual outlines of the claws. I had little specular highlights, and I had added detail. And I will take all these layers together, shift select all of them, hit Command E, and it groups them. It doesn't group them. It basically merges them. It merges them into one layer. And I will also make sure I get rid of the initial sketch. This is just to show where we began with this initial sketch that looked like this, very sketchy and sloppy, to some nice finalized graphic illustrative crab claws. And that was the final result. So sketch is quick and sloppy. And then by creating multiple layers and details, you get a nice final result. And the final thing is deleting the sketch. So I'm just going to get my little trash can with the sketch highlighted, hit yes. And last but not least is name your layer. So crab claw, making sure I name that. That's it. Okay. Thank you.